My name is Megan. I am 22 years old and I live in a small town, almost like a village in Scotland in the United Kingdom. My partner and I met through a dating app and he lived in a different part of Scotland, which is around 2 hours and 30 minutes away. We finally closed the distance last year in July 2023 when he decided to risk it all, leave his hometown, and move in with me. Before my partner and I moved in together, we decided that we wanted to try for a baby. This would be both our first. Around September 17, 2023, we found out I was pregnant. I was scared, excited, shocked, but grateful as I always thought I'd never be able to conceive. I felt the feelings of any first time mom would feel, the anxiousness of, can I do this? Will I be okay? Will I be a good mother? And that was the confirmation of when I saw my precious baby wave at us on the screen. I was ecstatic, overjoyed, and excited to meet this bundle of joy. My pregnancy was rough. I had severe morning sickness. I couldn't swallow tablets without being sick, and I couldn't keep food and drink down. I went to A&E a fair few times regarding these issues, and it was nonstop. One day I went to the maternity unit at the hospital. As I was over 16 weeks, I had been seen by the midwives and doctors regarding my morning sickness. When I handed a urine sample in, they said I had a suspected UTI. I was given antibiotics and explained that I had some discharge. To me, that didn't feel right. But I was told this could be thrush, so I was prescribed a thrush tablet. I went home and popped the thrush tablet in, hoping this would solve any issues, and tried my best to take the antibiotics, but I was non-stop throwing up. On December 28, 2023, I went to my 20-week scan. They were ready to tell me baby's gender. My partner and I both decided to find out together, even though we originally wanted it to be a secret for our baby shower/gender reveal. But due to the hospital laws, they had to tell us and weren't able to write it down. We were having a baby girl. I remember crying, hyperventilating in pure happiness. All I ever wanted was a little girl, a mini-me, since I was a little girl myself. I was taken into a different room and was given an injection for the whooping cough to prevent her getting it. The midwife asked, "Did your midwife prescribe you a low dosage of aspirin?" I shook my head. No. I wasn't aware I was supposed to be on that, as I was told at my first appointment with my midwife not to take ibuprofen or aspirin. The midwife looked at me and back at the computer. "Your midwife has ticked this form to say she's made you aware and was taking it. You should have been prescribed this from 12 weeks gestation. You are high risk, high BMI, and it's your first pregnancy." I was so confused and in disbelief. I had no idea why I wasn't told this, and why she ticked the box to say I was aware and prescribed this. After we left, I told my partner, "I'll have to contact my midwife to make sure I'm okay to take it because I'm confused as to why I wasn't aware." But that was a little too late. On December 29th, I felt stress and went shopping at my local supermarket. I found discounted baby outfits to buy for my soon-to-be baby girl. After we got home, I couldn't stop crying. I felt so stressed and upset. Pregnancy hormones. Just before bed, I went to the toilet, and as I wiped, I saw some spotting of blood. I screamed for my mom, and my mom assured me that I should go to the hospital. So my partner rushed me down the road to the hospital. He tried to reassure me it was probably because I had been super stressed. When we got to the hospital, they took me into a room which was exactly like the one I went to before, and they said they will scan me to see my baby. They did that. My baby was seen wiggling on the screen. The doctor and midwife smiled, reassured me that she had a heartbeat and she looked fine. After that, they suggested that they examine my cervix and took some swabs. I agreed. They put me up on the bed, and after the examination, I saw the sadness on both the doctor's and midwife's face. "I'm so sorry to tell you, but your cervix is open and we think that you may be having a miscarriage." I cried and cried and cried. I was in shock. I felt numb. I felt like this was something you can only see in a movie. The midwife said, "Would you like to call your mom so maybe she can bring a few things up for you, as we will have to keep you overnight?" As they left the room, I looked at my partner while crying, and I said, "You're going to leave me." He was in shock. "I'm not," he said. I apologized for everything I ever did, for any little argument we ever had, for anything I ever said that I didn't mean. I just wanted this feeling to go away and to go back to yesterday, to be happy, to never have found out that I'm losing my baby. I made the heartbreaking call to my mom and said, "Mom, I'm losing the baby." She came to the hospital as quick as she could. She asked the doctor if they could give me antibiotics in case of infection, steroids to help with the baby's lungs, or progesterone to delay giving birth, all in which the doctor said they couldn't. They took me into a room on the birthing ward and gave us blankets for the night. It was just a waiting game. On December 31st, I was greeted with the doctor who examined me on the night. He said, "We would like you to fast overnight. A doctor will be in to check you tomorrow, and if you are no longer bleeding or further dilated, we will transfer you into theater to have a cervical stitch put in to close your cervix." I was happy but scared with the news, but I'd do anything to keep my baby from being born this early. January 1st, 2024, New Year's Day. The doctor explained they would scan me to see baby, and they would examine my cervix again like they did on the first night. Baby looked perfect as always, with a strong heartbeat wiggling around, and then I was examined. This was the moment where I knew if they would be able to help me and my baby. The doctor finished what she was doing, sat beside me, and squeezed my hand tightly. "I'm so sorry, Megan. We can't do anything. Your cervix has dilated further, and we can see the membranes and baby wiggling in the sac." I cried. Practically an hour after the news was broken to me, a pediatrician and a senior midwife entered the room to talk about comfort care and funeral arrangements, and they could not save my baby if she was born at 20 to 21 weeks. There was so much information for one day. My family and myself tried fighting for my baby, asking again about antibiotics, steroids, progesterone, and we were turned down once again. That day, I was transferred to a room in which was called the Rainbow Room, where parents go when they have lost or are losing a child. Later that day, my partner's parents came up to visit us, and my mother-in-law wanted more information to what was going on. The pediatrician and one of the nurses set up a meeting to discuss what would happen if I made it to 22 weeks or a few days before. They came to an agreement that if I did, I'd be transferred to a hospital in the city, but in order for me to be transported up, I'd have to give birth to see if a bed was available. We were told it was against the law to help a baby survive if born alive at 20 to 22 weeks gestation. I was then told it was also against the law to resuscitate a baby of that gestation too, if there was no heartbeat. Later, I found out I was lied to and there is no law in place. I was told to rest and to wait, so immediately I was on bed rest. On January 2nd, 2024, I was taken to the birthing suite to be scanned. The doctor then broke the news to say my little girl was in breech position and I'd be giving birth to her like this very, very soon. During the day, I began to experience several lower back pains. I was given codeine and paracetamol to deal with this pain. I could barely pass urine and I couldn't open my stools. That day, I went to the toilet and immediately freaked out as I passed approximately 200 milliliters of urine. I thought this could have been my water breaking. My mom called for a midwife, and the midwife explained in as little detail as possible that it most likely was just urine and what it would feel like when I go into labor. Later that night, it began to get worse. I was given diamorphine to help rest, but I was up and down going back and forth to the toilet. I kept complaining that my back was on fire. My mom and my partner were rubbing my back to help until it got worse. My mom apologized and called for a midwife. They then rushed me into the birthing suite. I asked the nurse for gas and air and they gave it to me. My contractions were 30 seconds apart. My partner covered my eyes during the birthing process as he didn't want me to be more traumatized than I had already been. He has been my rock throughout my birth. Unfortunately, he had to see me give birth to his daughter in the sac surrounding the amniotic fluid. At 2:17 a.m. on January 3rd, she was born. A midwife took her out the room to get her out of the sac and to register her with the registrar. The midwife came back and broke the news. Our baby had no heartbeat. She was then called back and she came back to us with even better news. The registrar and the senior nurse who was called saw my little girl's arm moving so very slowly and could see her chest moving. Her heart was beating. She was breathing. She was brought back to us and given to my mom by my request to hold her for the first time, as my partner and I were scared to see her in case she was so underdeveloped. My mom handed her to me. My eyes lit up. She was so beautiful, so wanted. I couldn't believe I was holding my own baby. She wasn't underdeveloped. She was perfect, yet so small. I sat with my partner and my partner cried. I was still in so much shock and began to cry with him. My partner said, "She's so perfect." I could tell this was something that would completely destroy us when it was time to say goodbye to her. This isn't something we ever wanted to do. My partner picked her name, but because it was something he chose when he was very young, we felt we couldn't use that name. So we decided to name her what would have been her original name's middle name, Alara. Both my mom and I chose that name after my mom found the name on a Google search. In Arabic, it means water fairy and moon. I always had an obsession with the moon ever since I was young. It was a little girl, and her name is Alara Hope. It was bittersweet, and I cried hysterically. I completely broke down, and I needed to get out for some air. My mom thought that it was best to take me outside in my wheelchair. I was crying hysterically, and I wouldn't talk. And then I looked into the sky, and there was a full moon. My mom took me back in, and as soon as I entered, my partner's eyes met mine while crying. He said, "She's gone." I was broken. Our little girl passed away peacefully in her daddy's arms at 5:15 at 21 weeks and 4 days gestation, the same day she was born. Nobody came to help save our little girl, and nobody had plans in place to transport us to a different hospital. After I came home from hospital, I had to sign a form to have a full postmortem done. It was confirmed later that our little girl was simply just too perfect. There was nothing wrong with her. However, the fluid they took samples from my sac, in which was discolored and had a foul smell to it, indeed came back as an infection called chorioamnionitis. If my water broke, I could have gone into septic shock, and that could have made me very poor, and potentially I could have died. My little girl was so selfless and chose to give up her own life to save mine. She's truly my guardian angel. I was never given any antibiotics, steroids, or progesterone, and to this day, I'll believe that my healthcare system failed my daughter and failed us. The swabs in which was taken, I was told they'd come back within 1 to 2 days. Then I was told 2 to 3 days. I didn't find out about anything until 8 days later. I was in the hospital for a total of 6 days, and people were telling me they still didn't have results. I later found out that they had swabs within 48 hours, and they were lying to me about not having them even the day after I gave birth to my daughter. I was made to believe that this hospital would do something to help my baby, but in fact, they didn't. They never gave her a chance to live her life, and they refused any suggestions we brought up to them. When I asked to be transported to a different hospital for a second opinion, I was told that no other hospitals would help me or her either. Choices were made for me. The day we registered my daughter's death, we found out from the pediatrician that she died of a neonatal death due to preterm premature birth. So I was given false information to begin with, and everyone kept telling me I was miscarrying, when in fact my baby lived but died due to a lack of efforts to save her. What are your thoughts on this story? Feel free to leave a comment down below for any thoughts, comments of love, support, any words of encouragement that you have for this family. If you have a story to share about your angel, feel free to fill out our form in the description box below. We would be super honored to share your baby's story. See you next time.